Tiny Cross-H.U.G. Welcome to the Trunked Up Live show. Always remember that you can like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Always don't forget, man, leave your comments. Of course. I want to talk to y'all for a minute because, man, have you ever just felt that you was just on the wrong side of history about certain issues? And even though you admit to some of the wrong, you still do nothing to correct the wrong that's what has been done. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we need to make a self-assessment, change course on certain issues, right? And Gavin Newsom is one of them guys who, man, I mean, they are on his bumper right now, right? So accordingly, right, apparently they didn't let him speak at Davos for the World Economic Forum at first. However, he had a lot of smack to talk. And one of the lead economists for the Trump administration went up there and got on his bumper a little bit. So apparently, the rumor was that they didn't let him talk. The White House didn't want Gavin Newsom to talk or whatever. However, we're going to go ahead and just find out what he's talking about because they own Gavin Newsom bumper because they feel like it's been a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse in California when it comes down to Medicare, for one, for two, the train, for three, Palisades, the Palisades fire, man. That's like, man, a lot of people haven't gotten their homes, right? And on the fourth one, homelessness. On the fifth one, Governor Jerry Brown left you with a surplus. And here you are, since you've been governor, the budgets ain't been getting balanced. California has been doing good in a lot of respects, right? But since he went ahead and they gave this guy opportunity to go ahead and speak at the event in Davos, let's go ahead and check out and see what he got to say. But sometimes, what I'm saying, I just feel like we all need to make a correction, of course. You know what I'm saying? Man, as a California native, man, I am particularly worried about what's going on with this state under his governance, man, because for one, out of all of the almost $20 trillion that the Trump administration has gotten for investments in this country, if it wasn't for the shipbuilding, if it wasn't for Microsoft needing some of the rare minerals up in somewhere in Central California, man, the investments and the opportunities that should be coming to California right now through the Trump administration, man, is real scarce, right? So here I am. I'm kind of worried about what's going on. I want to hear about what this guy has to say when it comes down to California. So let's check this out. Let's go over here and hear what Donald Trump has to say at Davos real quick.
Yeah, for those of you who are not American, it gives you a sense of what we're up against and what's happening across my country and what happened here in Davos. I was going to speak last night. It was a well-established event at the USA House, simple conversation, discussion. After Trump's speech, they made sure that I didn't. They made sure it was canceled. And that's what's happening in the United States of America. Freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, freedom of speech. It's America in reverse. They're censoring historical facts. They're rewriting history. They're censoring books, 4,340 books in libraries and in schools banned in the United States of America. You're watching institutions, any institution of independent thinking is under assault and attack by the Trump administration. You're seeing what's playing out in the streets of American cities, what played out in California, the second largest city in the United States of America. 4,000 National Guard were federalized. 700 active duty Marines were not sent overseas. They were sent to my largest city in the state of California. Masked men. Guy Greg Bavino, dressed up. It's as if he literally went on eBay and purchased SS garb. Greg Bavino, secret police, private army, masked men, people disappearing quite literally, no due process, windows being smashed, seatbelts on, being literally just sort of cut off, people dragged in the streets, kids separated from families, knocking on doors, racially profiling American citizens. So is it surprising the Trump administration didn't like my commentary and wanted to make sure that I was not allowed to speak? No. It's consistent with this administration and their authoritarian tendencies. Forgive me. These are objective facts.
But I would say this was not just to be.
One thing I always worried about with this particular guy and the Democratic Party, you know what I'm saying, is first of all, they always try to, instead of getting to speaking to you with some type of rationale, they always try to spark some type of emotion about it. They always trying to spark some type of emotion about you to make you feel a certain way, particularly with regards to the Trump administration. Now, first and foremost, if Joe Biden wouldn't have allowed so many illegal migrants over here into this country, and I will sometime soon get the paperwork for you to show the things that they were doing in order for to make ensure that illegal migrants had a free passage over here into this country. And now that you do not want to work with the Trump administration, when you already admitted that the whole idea with regards to how Biden allowed individuals over here into this country was most certainly wrong, you still want to draw out emotions with regards to ICE instead of making corrections with regards to how you should be assisting with getting at least some of these individuals out of here. Some of these individuals, they found terrorists, they found, rapists, they found, murderers and things like that. A lot of these individuals had those type of serious crimes, and a lot of these individuals at the same time have perpetrated these crimes against American citizens. However, you continuously use the California economy as a way to subvert the whole mission of ICE. When, of course, at the same time, you infringe upon your own sanctuary state policies, because the only way that the sanctuary state policy is supposed to be working, Matt, I remind you why this dude is talking, because he's trying to stir up your emotions. The only way that the sanctuary state policy was actually supposed to be enacted, the impact of it was to, first of all, prevent the deportation of illegal immigrants when they were when they were the victims of crimes. It did not prevent ICE from doing its job when these individuals commit crimes from deporting them. A lot of these individuals have already been through some type of proceeding to where they have gotten a deportation order from judges, federal judges at that. Yet and still, Mr. Gavin Newsom and a whole lot of other sanctuary cities and sanctuary states refuse to work with the Trump administration. when it comes to going out and finding these individuals. If you do be more assistance to that, then I wouldn't call it a manufactured democratic issue. But however, because you refuse to do so, the whole position with regards to you and the Trump administration and you refusing to help in regards to something that you know is completely wrong, the whole, you know, whole OK Corral situation that's going on with ICE, in paraphrasing as, in terms of how you seeing it, here we are, we got you just talking about nothing, man. Just stop trying to stir up emotions. We don't need to get emotional. We need to speak with regards to this with some type of rationale so that we can get this handled and we can move on. But you're delaying the process, and it's just like, man, who wants to hear from you, especially when you've devastated the economy that you were intended to want the illegal migrant over there or the immigrant over here to particularly help out in? Let's let him talk, though.
be clear, this was a private enterprise endorsed by the State Department, but these are a lot of decisions are being made by private companies right now. This is a capital. This is probably the central global gathering of CEOs. And I guess I wonder if you can give me a review of how you see these folks. And you know your way around this world. How you see those people behaving.
Society becomes how we behave. We are our behaviors. We're not bystanders in this world. The world we're experiencing happened on our watch. So in the relationship to your question, yeah, they're complicit in some respects to this moment. Forgive me, you brought up a tweet, but part of my approach has been a little more aggressive than perhaps a lot of American politicians. I created a Patriot site. On the site, you can go, there are knee pads that are available to purchase. The last round of knee pads sold out, just as our law firms are selling out. Many American universities are selling out, and yes, many corporate leaders are selling out to this administration, selling out our values, selling out our future, selling out what makes America great, and it breaks my heart. And people need to stand up. People need to, courage of the damn convictions. We're the 250th anniversary. United States of America this year. It's the 250th anniversary. The best of the Roman Republic, Greek democracy, co-equal branches of government, the rule of law, popular sovereignty. Tell me that reflects the America you read about today. There's no rule of law. It's the rule of dawn. I hope it's open for Europeans.
Hold up, wait a minute. How is the rule of dawn when look at all the stuff that you doing to the state of California? How is it the rule of dawn when let's look at all the regulations that you didn't put in place to stop the flow of the economy for actually being able to run effectively with the prices going up? A lot of the taxes you got, man, a wealth tax that's going to kick out a bunch of millionaires right now. And eventually that is somehow is going to come out of property tax against the middle class individual with these homes. Oh man, it's hard listening to this dude. It's hard listening to this dude because he's just so full of crap. He's trying to, in my eyes, make excuses for his own wrongdoing with regards to the states. Like I said, man, Governor Jerry Brown left this state in a surplus, and all he had to do was follow the script. All he had to do was just follow the script. Instead, he came in here particularly on being a control freak, man. And that's something that you got to realize about the Democratic Party. All they want is control. First and foremost, what you got to realize about the Democratic Party, first and foremost, is that you're going to either play by their cards or you're going to not do business in a state like California. You're going to either play by their cards, their rules. You're going to be under control You're going to be under government control, and that's for the people, and that's for the corporations. They want these people to be under their control so much that people are deciding to leave. So when you're talking about Donald Trump being a control freak, man, I mean, people is you're being so controlling in the state of California that people is trying to get away from you.
It's dawning on you. It's not the rule of law. You don't have co-equal branches of government. You have a supine Congress. You don't have a Speaker of the House. It doesn't exist. Popular sovereignty being challenged every single day by voter suppression, trying to rig elections. I mean, heck, Donald Trump tried to steal the election, the last election, tried to light democracy on fire, and then pardoned everyone that participated in that. Is anyone paying attention to what the hell is going on in the United States of America? So my state of mind is a little different, perhaps, than many others. I won't be complicit at this moment.
Listen, you want the control and the momentum that Donald Trump has at this moment. And you are looking at the bad guy because what Donald Trump has that you don't have, Donald Trump has in his pocketbook as being a winner. When for the state of California, you look like a complete loser at the moment, man. And you're trying to sit up here and make excuses for the devastations of the economy. The California economy is being devastated. Only thing that's being worked out right now when it comes down to the economy particularly is AI. If it wasn't for AI, and from what I understand, California is not even the fourth world largest economy anymore. It didn't drop down to fifth behind Japan. I think this dude is a dude that is jealous of Donald Trump more than anything, because unlike Donald Trump, Gavin Newsom cannot seem to be doing anything right at the moment.
I won't. I can't. I can't look my kids in the eyes. And so I'm just blessed that I get to represent a state that's larger than the size of 21 U.S. states combined. Where 27% of us are foreign-born. We practice pluralism. That's a word you haven't heard in America in a year. Where we dominate in every critical category in terms of energy and daring and entrepreneurialism and innovation. Look, give me a category. In California outperforms fourth largest economy in the world. And so we can punch above our weight. We can come here with formal authority and a little moral authority. And I tell you, we need a little moral authority. Our body politic in the United States of America today.
Governor, how do you balance?
Good morning, everybody.
Sorry, I figured we would.
Yeah, I guess you can take a break from your little rant, huh? Go ahead and take a breather, man. Take a breather, calm down a little bit. It's gonna be okay. You know what I'm saying? But what's the boy name? The economist for Trump. He is on your tail. He is on your tail.
Yeah. You're a tough interview, Governor. And when I think you have chosen a sort of, if you can't beat them, join them strategy to the way you're talking about this stuff. You're running around distributing knee pads to CEOs, and I think it does.
Handing them out.
And it does.
I do have a few, if you'd like.
And honestly, it sounds.
By the way, I'm not kidding. They're the new Trump signature series knee pads. Yeah, and they are available online. I told you the last one sold out. And I just want to sort of. It's a serious moment. It actually, but we laugh. Anyway, these are available and in bulk too.
But I want to read you a couple of things the U.S. government has said about you in the last 24 hours or so.
The U.S. government.
The Treasury Secretary.
When you put it
the Treasury Secretary described you as Patrick Bateman meets Sparkle Beach Ken. The White House Communications Director.
That was the U.S. Secretary of treasury.
I have a couple more, and then you can respond. The White House Communications Director called you Gavin Newsom, and an official White House account, a federal government account, described you with I'd say, very online sexual slur that people here probably don't want to hear at 8:30 in the morning. And you're, in some sense, responding in kind. And some,
fire with fire.
Do you think? Should you? I mean, is that kind of discourse from you, from them, good for America?
No, it's deeply unbecoming. Come on, of course it is. It's not what we should be doing. But you've got to point out the absurdity. You've got to put a mirror up to this. This is madness. President, you see what he's saying about European leaders, you talking down to people, talking past people. I mean, look, the comments he made yesterday we're not even discussing, because you're discussing all the other comments about windmills or whatever else was happening. Well, he talked about Somalia's community. This is not normal. It's a deviation of normalcy. We've got to call it out. So I put a mirror up to Trump and Trumpism in all caps. And it was ironic because Pravda, Fox News in America, others, they got offended by it. They said, well, where's his mother to wash his mouth out with soap? I said, well, where the hell have you been? You've never said a word about Trump dressing up as the Pope, tweeting out and cosplaying on the world stage. And so the Treasury Secretary talked about a Barbie doll. It was as if he was reading a diary and had just broken up with someone. I mean, that was the Secretary of Treasury using valuable time yesterday on the world stage. Some sexual, thank you for not sharing that on the official White House account. We're deeply in their head. I think the affordability agenda appears to be, I'm living rent-free in the Trump administration's head.
The most talked about speech here in Davos actually wasn't Donald Trump's address yesterday. It was the Canadian Prime Minister.
Forgettable speech.
It was Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney the day before, who talked about, I don't know, in large terms, the middle powers, everybody except for China and the U.S. We have to adapt permanently to a world without American leadership. I guess I wonder, I mean, that's in some sense a pretty anti-American point of view. That's a view that America is gone from the world stage, that whether the next president is J.D. Vance, Gavin Newsom, somebody else, this isn't a deviation, as you said, this is permanent. Do you buy that? Do you buy Carney's point of view?
I felt there was moments, and forgive me, I should be cautious making this statement, I don't want it to be overanalyzed, but when I was listening to the EU president speak, there were moments where I said, that used to be us. I remember that. So am I surprised by what Carney did? Quite the contrary. I thought it was, I had more leaders from the United States quietly, I mean, not publicly, I'm not saying it publicly, the transcript of that speech saying, wow. They were, I mean, God in Trump said yesterday, he brought it up. You know everything about Trump because it's what's not in the teleprompter. It tells you everything you need to know about where Trump's head is on things. It was incredibly effective. The markets were more effective. Markets. It's not Mother Nature, thought of most powerful force on earth with Mother Nature, but it's the markets, particularly the Trump administration. Combine that with the comments of Macron, combine that with the EU commissioner, but the clarity that came from Prime Minister of Canada. But the fact that he went to China, came back with a deal, started introducing low-cost, high-quality electric vehicles, not made in Michigan, Detroit, but overseas into Canada. It says everything you know about the recklessness of America's foreign policy. Everything you need to know. You know it intimately. But it's a remarkable thing to break down 80-plus years of alliances. It takes decades and decades to build trust in organizations, the architecture of that. It takes weeks, tweets, hours, minutes sometimes.
Man, I can't wait to the interviewer just simply ask him the question that needs to be answered, because it seemed like the interviewer is most certainly puzzled by, his response right now with regards to him not wanting manufacturing to be done in the United States and more so in China, where allow China to get those jobs instead of the U.S. citizen. And see, this is something that has been continuously said about the Democrats, how they turned their back on the U.S. citizen. And this is why, one of the reasons why Trump is in office is because they just particularly feel that citizens particularly feel that the Democratic Party has consistently turned their back against the United States citizen. And I want to just make it simple and break it down for you easy, right? Because this is how simply I just look at the whole issue. The whole issue and the way I look at it is that the Democratic Party is all about party. The Democratic Party is simply just all about party. They don't care about nothing but party. They don't care who they run over. They don't care about nothing. And the reason I think that more so that they got a problem with Donald Trump is because they see Donald Trump doing what they would like to do. However, Donald Trump is just not part of their party. If Donald Trump was a Democrat, if Donald Trump was still donating to their campaigns and supporting the Democrats, do you think that you would be hearing all this stuff coming out of Gavin Newsom's mouth? No, not at all. I don't think so. Let's let the interviewer, chime in on his response because I think the interviewer is most certainly puzzled by what Gavin Newsom just said.
To destroy it. Destruction is not strength. The Trump administration is weakness masquerading as strength. And people need to understand that. That's reflected in the tweets. That's reflected in canceling people. That's reflected in sending masked men into the American cities. It's reflected at this moment. So I respect what Carney did because he had courage of convictions. He stood up. And I think we need to stand up in America and call this out with clarity. We can lose our republic as we know it. Our country become unrecognizable in a matter of months, just not years. It is code red, blinking red in the United States.
Shoot, I know one thing for certain. California is really unrecognizable with you as governor. California is really unrecognizable with Democrats leading governance in this country. They have no sense of true leadership. Only way that they gonna really have leadership is if they set the rules down, and that's all you've seen from them continuously. Instead of opening things up and allowing, and see, first of all, he doesn't go after attempting to get investments. What he does is once investments start to take shape in the state of California, what he does is he says, okay, we found another way to grab some money from another company, from another entrepreneur who wants to do business in the state of California. So let's go ahead and regulate some so that we make sure that the government is going to get a piece of that. The state of California is going to get a piece of whatever they try to do in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of investment. And the only person that I can recognize that they really didn't do that much to in terms of, and I don't want to say, so don't like really quote me on this, right? But the only person I did see them really helping out with regards to building up an infrastructure, and that's just because of the whole idea of green energy, and that was Elon Musk. Besides that, when it comes to AI, that was particularly AI doing that, and AI because of the wealth tax. A lot of them entrepreneurs and them corporations, with regards to that developed a lot of the AI, will be and for the state of California to be one of the leaders of AI because of the wealth tax. A lot of them individuals are about to leave. So.
Of America. So forgive me, I feel this with passion, some indignancy that someone frankly has taken it for granted all of these years. And it's why I came here to Davos to call it out. And I wish there were more of us doing the same, because there are more of us. And on that, forgive me, I want you to know Donald Trump is an historic president. That's absolutely correct. He's historically unpopular in the United States of America, in every category. He's underwater. He will be remembered in years, not decades. He's not going to run again. Time of life denies that. Not a state of mind, but time of life. But we
Man, because of Donald Trump, people has most certainly forgotten about Joe Biden. Because of Donald Trump, people have most certainly forgotten about Joe Biden. I'm gonna tell you that right now, because I don't even think about the dude. All I see is Donald Trump continuously being transparent, continuously trying to make deals, and while you getting on him from what is he from for what he's trying to do with regards to Greenland and national security and whatever else, for minerals or whatever else. For those of you who have not heard, a framework for a deal for Greenland is already being worked out right now. So what is the conversation about?
need to manifest that. And we need to do the hard work. And that hard work includes the difficult work of coming to Davos and calling that out. This is not where I want to be spending, love you all, my time. Anyway, it's an extension of the conviction I feel about this moment.
A lot of people, among other things, aren't American, maybe be concerned for America, but are making decisions about their own politics, their own countries. And what Carney's core point was, this is a rupture, this isn't an anomaly, and there's no going back. And do you think that, do you think that always for an American leader can bring...
I think these relationships are in dormancy, they're not dead. I don't use those binary terms. Don't fall prey to that. That's a bit hyperbolic, and I'm prone to a little of that at times. Dormancy. We can he's an invasive species, Donald Trump. He's not. He is. He took over the Republican Party. They're just, got, a few of them. Lindsey Graham, speaking of the knee pads. I'm sorry. This is tough stuff. It's tough stuff. I don't recognize these people any longer. I used to respect Lindsey. Lindsey, you think what I'm saying about Trump's tough? How about what Lindsey Graham said about Trump? How about the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio?
Do you think
these are the same people. And this is why for things to change, we need to change.
Do you think
that's why I'm changing my approach. And again, grateful you all took.
I suppose, do you think post-Trump there's a path back? Because you see this everywhere, the kind of insult politics that you're doing here, which you said you don't really enjoy it. You kind of seem to.
I just putting a mirror up. You gotta. I was doing my 10-point plans before, and I don't think any of you would have been here this morning had I done that.
Oh, they would have been here.
No, because it wasn't working. No, everyone's trying to figure this out.
How do you Mark Carney crowd?
But it's how do you communicate? How do you respond to this moment? And for me, it's about iteration. It's an entrepreneurial spirit. It's a very California mindset. You got to keep increasing the number of tries. And I was trying everything, wasn't working, wasn't breaking through. Democratic Party, writ large, wasn't breaking through. And we decided the only way to address Trump is quite literally to fight fire with fire. I did an initiative, Prop 50 in California. It was to reflect the fact that Donald Trump called an American politician and said in the middle of the decade to the governor of the state of Texas, I am entitled, Greg Abbott, to 5 seats. And I need you to redraw district lines, mid-year redistricting, to rig the 2026 election before one vote is cast. What the Trump administration expected we were going to do, as good Democrats do, we might write an op-ed. And we may, all go out and just say, this is just so wrong. And all of us would be applauding and say, yes. And, as he's consolidating power. Instead, we went out and we redraw our maps. And we also drew a line in the sand. And I think that's what's required at this moment. And he assesses out weakness like no one else. That's his great strength. That's his gift. But you punch back.
Hey, I will say that, right? He is right about that. If you got a weakness, Donald Trump is going, peel your cap back. That's for sure. If you got a weakness that Donald Trump can hold on to, you better not have a weakness that Donald Trump can figure out and hold you to, right? But besides that, right? Because that's what makes him, a good leader, man. And you can't take nothing away from him for that, right? Because That's how he gets his deals. That's how this almost 20 trillion, but legitimately 18 trillion has came to America. That's how, we've gotten this whole this tariff thing going on right now. Where because the United States is such a consumer based country that, you know, these tariffs have completely allowed him to end wars. These tariffs, particularly at this particular moment, you can say has gotten him with the ability to even ask for Greenland, something that is on the Western hemisphere, something that I don't know how. And I'm not saying that he got it yet. I don't think, first and foremost, I don't think Greenland is going to be a 51st state. What I think is going to happen with regards to Greenland is that it is going to be somewhat of like I don't want to say a colony, because that's what it is right now under Denmark. However, what I think is the United States is going to be a territory of the United States. And the reason why I don't think Greenland is going to be a 51st state is because Denmark has Greenland situated in terms of being a socialist society, right? Greenland is dependent on some of the government bonds that are coming into Greenland in terms of helping the people of Greenland economy work out, right? And that's how, listen, it's like the welfare, right? It's like the money that Denmark gives Greenland is like Greenland's welfare, and gives Denmark the ability to control Greenland. Just like what the Democratic do when they give you all these social services that they want to, particularly hand out to people. And this is, particularly for situations where they can gain your vote. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think that Greenland is going to be a 51st state because of that. Because the whole ideology with regards to Greenland is on a social, it's on a socialist standpoint. It's on a socialist basis at the moment. You know what I'm saying? So when you think about it becoming a 51st state, but do Trump got it in the bag? Could he have took it with force? Hey, I know for one thing for sure. I mean, for him to even get out of NATO, he had to go to Congress, but at least he spoke up on something with regards to something that is in the Western Hemisphere, something that he has to defend, and he doesn't. What he doesn't have us doing is going out and spending more money, spending more American tax dollars on fighting for another country in order just to protect us. He wants us to protect ourselves, but he's still going to be a part of NATO and still going to respond to Denmark if he is able to uh, make Greenland a territory of the United States. So people may not recognize that the Virgin Islands was a part of Denmark as well. Just how Denmark was treating the Virgin Islands, they're treating Greenland. Since the Virgin Islands has become a United States territory, it has been doing better economically. It still has some problems, right? But Greenland has a lot more to offer in terms of resources than particularly Greenland has. I mean, than the Virgin Islands has. What makes the economy in Greenland's particularly so more well off than the Virgin Islands is that the Virgin Islands is more of a tourist spot, right? So a lot more can be done with Greenland in terms of its resources. It could be improved. It's only, listen, Why should 56 to 58,000 people, right, control the security of what, almost 300, however many people is in the United States of America, when they're on our side of the hemisphere and Europe is on the other side, and Denmark don't do nothing but to have control of this country gives it money, like Greenland is a welfare state. I don't know, y'all. You just take time to think about that when you're thinking about why is Trump trying to snatch up Greenland.
You fight fire with fire, you display conviction and strength. It's a different relationship. And so my relationship to this moment is reflected in that. I'm not naive. These guys are going to try to take me down, not just my state. I'm not naive about what I said this morning and how that will be reflected in the official White House account. I'm not naive about the fact that he threatened to prosecute the Fed chief in the United States of America that has subpoena against another sitting governor, Tim Walz, who's literally going after his enemies with the FBI and the DOJ, these power ministries. I'm not naive about any of this. I'm not naive about the corruption and the graft at scale we've never seen in American history. I'm not naive about folks writing billion-dollar checks to Witkoff, to Jared Kushner, for this new peace deal they're announcing today. I'm not naive about the fact that the President of the United States made $1.5 billion+ in the last 12 months, personally. How the hell are we putting up with this? We have to call this out. Unprecedented in American history. Happening in real time on our watch. We have to be held to a higher level, all of us, myself notably, to a higher level of accountability at this moment.
And you know, I think one of the main reasons that that he has been successful is because the Democratic Party is so discredited in the eyes of so many voters. I have a couple of questions about that. One is big picture about California. People, you are in the midst of a enormous economic boom right now, and yet the state is on one hand running deficits, and on the other not always delivering services that it's from education to healthcare that your citizens are delighted with. And I guess I wonder how are voters looking at California, looking at New York, looking at Chicago, supposed to say, yeah, this is the model we want?
Well, I'm proud of my state. We have more Fortune 500 companies than any other state in America, more scientists, engineers, more Nobel laureates in my state than any state in America, the finest system of higher public education in the world. We have 18% of the world's R&D, China 22%, Germany 21%, California 18% of the world's R&D. We're the center of the universe as it relates to AI.
432 is wonderful, but what about the governance?
Well, the governance, we're one of the lowest uninsured rates in America. You mentioned healthcare. We just did our State of Education report, which showed in every category, every classroom, making progress with our test scores. Our investments are paying off. Just did a big State of the State.
The idea that these blue states have trouble, are spending more for less results.
I don't know. Higher life expectancy, lower infant mortality, lower gun death rates. More productivity, higher wages, higher quality of life. $83.1 billion, that was the net contribution that we provided to the federal government versus red state like Texas that was a taker state of $73.1 billion. So we're producing more and people are, I think, creating more opportunities. So look, are there problems?
For instance, you're supporting the mayor of LA for re-election after these terrible fires that a lot of your citizens do feel was in part because of government mismanagement. Do you just reject that narrative that the government doesn't anything to do with these things?
I absolutely accept that we all should be held to a higher level of accountability in terms of our governance, and I think there's many areas of reforms that are necessary, so many areas of reforms that are underway. We can get into the specifics of any one of these issues, but the general notion that in the middle of winter, with 100-mile-an-hour winds that were attached to a fire, that somehow, by the way, there were 16 major fires in Southern California over a 2-week period. That somehow that had to do with fire hydrants is rather preposterous. And it was shapeshift because of the complete bullshit that came from Donald Trump and Elon Musk, saying somehow the sprinklers didn't work and the fire hydrants didn't work because we didn't turn on a valve in Northern California. These are literal words from the Trump administration. So I do reject that.
Man, we saw that on the news where the fire department didn't have enough water with regards to put out the fires. The water system ran out for the fire department to even do their job. So, hey, call a spade, bruh. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, hold on, wait a minute. You know what I'm saying? What's going on? What happened to the water?
Do I reject this notion of being self-critical about governance and management across the spectrum? No, that's fair game.
And probably the biggest governance issue, policy issue, fueling right-wing parties in the United States around the country is immigration. And I think liberal parties, again, in the U.S. and around the world, had a posture of welcoming immigrants that it just turned out a lot of Americans, a lot of Californians, but more Americans are unhappy with. Illegal immigration, the out-of-control border, but also it's the last issue on which Trump, though his numbers have been sliding, remained somewhat popular. And I guess I wonder, do you think that your party went too far or that you went too far? And I think, for instance, in extending Medi-Cal to the California healthcare program to undocumented immigrants. Like, do you?
Well, two different
I guess on the big picture and the small picture, do you feel like you went too far?
Two different questions. Do I believe in universal health care? Yes, regardless of pre-existing conditions, ability to pay, and your status. I campaigned on that. We delivered on that. And I'm proud of that. We're one of 16 states to provide care to people regardless of their immigration status. By the way, we have universal care in emergency rooms, and you pay the price on the back end, at least Americans, for that, regardless of your immigration status. But the issue of immigration, Donald Trump is very unpopular on immigration. He's successful on the border, separate issue, connected. And yes, the Democratic Party failed in the last few years on the border. And yes, I was critical of that. And yes, I put our own National Guard on the border the day I got elected into office in 2019, sent 394 National Guard down to the border. And we were very, very pointed with the Biden administration that we were failing to deliver border security for a number of years. On the larger immigration issue, I happen to share the same old office of Ronald Reagan, governor of California, who decided in his last day in office at the White House, and he gave a love letter to immigrants from around the world. It was a love letter to America, what distinguishes America from the rest of the globe. He talked about Lady Liberty's torch. And he talked about the vibrancy of newcomers, people coming all over the globe for riches and new beginnings, becoming Americans, and what defines our great nation. And that's the spirit that defines my mindset. Getting first-round draft choices around the rest of the world is what makes California so vibrant. It's because of that diversity, and it's because of people's willingness to dare and to match up with ideas and perspectives and backgrounds to come in to make a go of it that has made California the fourth largest GDP in the world. But we have failed on the border, and Donald Trump is failing on immigration. His economic policy is not complicated. It's tariffs, which is a regressive tax. It's mass deportations, which is having a major impact on supply chains. And you've seen the American jobless rate. You're seeing it growing. The unemployment rate in America, Besson didn't talk about this. They had the worst jobs numbers in the first year of the Trump administration, outside a recession since 2003. 49,000 jobs a month. The Biden administration last year was averaging 168,000 jobs a month. Inflation is not lowering, still at 2.7%. Ask folks what a pound of beef costs in the United States of America or a brand new car. Everything you heard yesterday was BS. And it's impacted by these policies of tariffs that are impacting ranchers and farmers and small business folks. A major tax that they celebrate, collecting, which is ironic from the Republican Party. And the third leg of the stool is a massive tax cut.
First of all, them terrorists must be doing something for, him to just be busting $18 trillion into the economy. I don't know about you, but with him busting $18 trillion worth of investment into the economy through tariffs, for him to be able to negotiate uh, lower medication deals through tariffs, for him to man, like, listen, first of all, he did a lot of contradictions, with regards to his statement when it came to immigration, talking about, yeah, we failed on immigration, but however, whatever his contradiction was, you know what I'm saying? If you go back and you would notice that he contradicted that. How you gonna fail on immigration, but at the same time, here you are in support of the ones that are over here illegally in the first place? That's a contradiction in itself. Now, listen, let me tell you something. Like, I am by all means in support of people who want opportunities to come into this country, but you got to do it the right way. Second of all, what he's not talking about with regards to the immigration problem, what he's not talking about with regards to the immigration problem is how the Democratic Party, particularly under Joe Biden, tried to rescue the numbers with the economy with regards and did so through the means of supplying the illegal immigrants into the workforce because Americans did not want to go back into the same employment that they had got fired from prior to the COVID-19 pandemic, because these people got fired. They were working at these jobs all this time, 5, 10, 15 years. They got laid off, or they had to go into some type of early retirement, whatever the cause was. However, these, because of the economy was shut down by the Democratic Party, all right, can nobody go nowhere. People had time to contemplate and wanted better for themselves once the economy opened back up, and didn't want to suffer from the same thing if the economy was to shut back down, to be where they just be like stuck without a job. So Joe Biden chose to reinvigorate the country with opening up the borders, because employers couldn't find the workforce that they needed to reinvigorate the economy. And here we are. Y'all came up with the idea of saying, okay, well, if we can't get the American back into the workforce, then we got to do something. And these people will come over here and work, not allowing the situation to correct itself, not giving the individuals time enough to find better in terms of the citizen, in terms of going back into the workforce, feeling more comfortable, becoming entrepreneurs, figuring it out. Here you just said, open up the borders, let these people in, and these people will take up the jobs from these United States citizens. And that's where I think the problem end up lying at with regards to why Trump is in office. Like, and then on top of that, here you is, y'all manufacturing this whole thing with regards to ICE, because here you is, you saying that you could have did better at the border, but then you still won't work with the Trump administration. They're going to find the individuals in which you stating right now that you could have did better at the border at. I'm for immigration. I'm for immigration. I have a lot of friends who was not born in this country, and they will tell you that, man, I went through this thing the right way. You know what I'm saying? I went through this thing the right way, and here we getting pushed out, um, basically to the back of the line when we had to go through this thing the right way. Shouldn't these people and these individuals who cross the border have to do the same thing? What makes them better than us? When we had to go through this thing the right way to become citizens, we had to go to the military. We had to be of service somehow. We had to do all this studying with regards to some of the basic history of the United States itself. We had to actually assimilate. These people didn't even have to assimilate into this country. All they had to do was come take opportunities away from the United States citizen, because that is what you wanted. That's what you wanted to allow to happen, to reinvigorate the economy, to make it look good on the books, because Joe Biden, what I suspect, expected to run for the second term. And if the economy didn't reaccelerate itself, he had no chance of coming into a second term and winning. So this is all manufactured by the Democrats. So this is why I don't want individuals to go get themselves caught up in these protests with regards to ICE, because the Democrats is stirring this stuff up. It's not Trump. He as you see, he contradicting himself with regards to this. Yeah, we could have done better at the border. Well, if you know you done wrong at the border, then why aren't you helping the current administration go fix it? Watch the emotional ties that he's tried to have you on continuously. When he gets anytime that this interviewer has something to say about Trump, he calms down when he has to think about what he has to say about his own governance. So he had the opportunity to think, but watch, soon as anything come up about him having to speak with regards to Donald Trump, watch how passionate he gets with regards to his speech or his talk. You know what I'm saying? So just watch that closely, because what I think is more so, he just wants to be Donald Trump.
Away from the wealthy and the privileged, taxing now the burden on small businesses and working folks. That's the policy, easily described, of America's economic strategy. And it's a failed strategy, and the impacts of that strategy are being felt all throughout the United States of America, including my state that has been disproportionately impacted by these policies. So I'm very critical of those. I'm critical of our assault on institutions of higher learning, research, institutions that have literally been, they're part of that formula for success. The rest of the world gets that. And he's putting sand in the gears across that spectrum. And in California, again, is fighting and pushing back.
And well, some of those first-round draft picks got incredible contracts and are now made quite a lot of money and are now very freaked out, threatening to leave California over a proposal that, just to be clear, you oppose, to for a sort of one-time tax on the wealth of the very, very, very wealthy Californians. And I guess I want to ask you two questions. Yeah. One is, I was talking to somebody progressive here who said, this guy's basically a fake populist. He talks a good game about the billionaires. Here is an actual proposal that they're unhappy about, and you're on the other side. You're standing with Elon Musk and David Sachs on this. Why is that?
Well, one-time wealth tax at a state level that almost exclusively goes to solve one problem, healthcare, and not solving for larger issues like education, supporting police officers and firefighters, and starves the rest of the general fund, that has had already the impact of people moving out of our state and impacting then the annual income tax collection, is not something I support. And by the way, vast majority of labor does not support as well. And that's reflected in my opposition. What's not reflected in my opposition, quite the contrary, is my advocacy for progressive taxes. That does tax the wealthy disproportionately.
Do you have a theory?
I've been a strong advocate for that.
Do you have a theory on how to tax this particular group who often kind of live in this, and I'm sure maybe people in this room who do this, but who live on debt, who have no income and live on these sort of giant revolving loans?
Yeah, when you could have that conversation.
I think the wealth tax is sort of an attempt to get at that.
Yeah, but at a national level, we're competing with 50 states. Capital flows and move, that's real. It's not imagined. It's very, very real. So we have a progressive tax structure, the most progressive in the country. By the way, states like Texas and Florida have the most regressive tax structures. They tax their lowest wage earners more than we tax our highest wage earners. They are the high tax states. We have the highest tax rate for the 1%. But for working folks and middle class, it's a very different tax structure. That's the approach we promote. That's the approach that we advance in our state. But again, our state of mind as it relates to the issue of a state-by-state wealth tax, the impact of that has to be considered in the context of how freely capital can move and how that's already occurred. It's not just an assertion, it's an evidence already in the state of California as it relates to a
You know, isn't it funny after he went and spent so much of California's money with regards to Medicare for illegal migrants, right? That all of a sudden, to fix that and dipping in the reserves of California, here he is talking about he's not the one in support of taxing the rich with this wealth tax with regards to trying to recoup that money back. Don't you think that is something a little skeptical about that? Why is it targeted towards the whole fixing the budget with regards to the medical scheme? If that doesn't sound a little skeptical, when you know that it's going to be targeted towards that, there's no way to actually recoup that money back from these individuals besides taxes. The only way that you're going to recoup this, hold on just a minute. I'm sorry about that. The only way that money is going to be recouped is if you get it from taxes some way, somehow. It's the same thing that's happening to the state of Chicago, where they are trying to create a wealth tax, which in turn is going to be because these individuals are going to leave the state. They can go anywhere. It's pretty much is going to be the burden of the middle class and not on the burden of the individuals who y'all particularly want to tax the wealthy in the first place. He says, while he's saying his rhetoric is saying that he's not in support of it. Listen, he doesn't want to leave the state of California without fixing this whole budget deficit because he know he will lose his chances, especially when Jerry Brown let this state in the surplus. He know he will lose his chances at becoming president.
proposal that hasn't gone on the ballot, a proposal that has never gotten through the legislature, and a proposal that likely, if it did get on the ballot, will lose.
Did you campaign against it?
I'm opposed to it. It's already had, I think, a very negative impact on the state, and it's a badly drafted initiative. Again, that literally takes teachers and takes our educational system out of any consideration of support and impacts all the parts of our general fund. It is a flawed initiative.
And then I think conversely, these folks who control a ton of capital, and as you said, some are actually already leaving, have been leaving. How do you over this, but I think also over a sense that California, that Democratic leadership broadly, complains about billionaires a lot, does not give them the love and respect that they feel that they're entitled to. How do you talk to these folks? Some of them support you, some don't. But what are you saying as you call people up and say, "Hey, please don't leave California"? What's your
Well, California's population 3 years in a row continues to grow, and so does our footprint as it relates to more Fortune 500 companies than we've had in over 2 decades. And our innovation ecosystem and startup ecosystem is second to none. We have half of the country's unicorns in our state. The largest market cap private sector company, OpenAI, just headquartered in San Francisco. They could have chosen any other state in the country. Look, I don't begrudge other people's success. I've never been that kind of Democrat. But I also recognize in a world, businesses can't thrive in a world that's failing. 10% of the wealth is concentrated, or rather 2/3 of the wealth in the United States is concentrated in the hands of just 10%. 10% of our consumer spending. The imbalance, I mean, it was Plutarch who said it to the Athenians 2,000 years ago. The imbalance between the rich and the poor is the oldest and most fatal ailment of all republics. Fast forward today. So this concentration, it's a very real issue, and we're going to have to address that. And
So he just told on himself, right? Because this is what the Democratic Party is pretty much all about. The imbalance of the rich and the poor. See, this is what the Democrat is when you look at the regulations that are being put in place on corporations, you know what I'm saying, it's to draw a balance between the rich and the poor. This is what this is what they campaign about. They always campaign on the balance between the rich and the poor. So if you don't believe that he was wanted to be a part of this whole idea with regards to this wealth tax, yeah, it was going to be a scheme that was going to go through the voting system without necessarily his support. So he wouldn't be the one that necessarily has to be the one that's supporting it. He won't have to be out there on a campaign with regards to that because he knows that is going to be very unpopular. So he tried to give it to the voters. And now, because they know that it's so unpopular, they know that individuals are going to leave the state. And with regards to the wealthy, now with already the people that's in the middle class already leaving, or in the lower class already just trying to get up out of here too, because the cost of living is so high out here. Now he doesn't want to another bad note, you know, another bad mark, it basically on his rap sheet with regards to creating this whole idea with regards to the wealth tax. Because this is when you this is how they do it. They gonna regulate you or they gonna tax you. They gonna regulate you or they gonna tax you. The things the separation between the Republican Party is they want a free market. They only need going to try to step in when it come time to be like, hold on, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute, y'all doing too much. But they gonna. This is why you see Trump steady trying to cut regulations, steady trying to cut regulations, steady trying to cut regulations. For every one regulations in this term, he wants 10 regulations removed so that the market can open up and that a business are allowed to innovate and grow. On the other hand, when you look at the trucking industry in the state of California right now, how you couldn't be an independent contractor in just to drive a truck in the state of California. That law had passed, and that was about to dramatically hurt the trucking industry in California. What else can I bring up? Well, listen, I don't know what else I can bring up at the moment, but we're gonna try to complete this real quick because he is on a 37-minute rant.
But we have to address it, I think, very thoughtfully and systemically, and I think we have to have it through the lens of a national reform. What we've done is the exact opposite with H.R. 1, which is going to explode deficits in the United States of America and debt. And again, it's transferred the tax burden to small businesses, farmers, and ranchers. It is an abomination, and it's a policy, unfortunately, the Trump administration is very proud of.
Do you think a national reform is enough? I mean, a lot of this capital is really global.
This is a challenge for all of us across the globe. And so the challenge is, do you have a redistribution mindset or a pre-distribution mindset? Do you have a progressive tax structure that can balance these things? And this is the iteration in the state of California. And this is our approximation. And I think California's figured it out in many respects. I mean, our entire entrepreneurial system is thriving in our state. We I think, found that balance. We had the highest contribution of venture capital last year in our history, $106 billion. 68% of it went back into the state of California, despite our progressive tax structure.
Well, from the tweets to Plutarch, thank you. Thank you so much, Governor.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you. Thank you. From the tweets to Plutarch.
Mr. Governor Jerry Brown. Excuse me, Mr. Gavin Newsom. I don't want to give you that much respect because Gavin Newsom left our state in the surplus. Even I say the worst thing that Gavin Newsom did, he created this state into a sanctuary state. And right now, the Democratic Party is using this as a primary tool to gain a voter base when I believe that the Democratic Party is completely victimizing the illegal immigrants because they're using the illegal immigrants as a a source of tax revenue when and victimizing them and abusing them and use them in terms of to where we in a situation right now where the American people feel like it's so many of them over here to where they are completely taking over the resources. And for the budgets in the whole lot of Democratic states right now, they have been completely swamping the resources. In terms of Minneapolis, a place like Minneapolis, with the waste, fraud, and abuse, and now here they want to head into California just because of that. So, Mr. Jerry Brown, I don't know what to rank you. What we go? I mean, excuse me. I keep on calling this dude Jerry Brown. I don't know what to rank Gavin Newsom with regards to, you know, his whole this whole ordeal. I'm glad that he did get an opportunity to speak, but did he, you know, frankly say something that I thought that he was going to say differently, but try to continuously support what he's been doing in the state of California? No, I didn't. I didn't. There was nothing, no difference. But from what I've already heard, he's just completely. I just think that he's completely wants to be like Trump. And the way that the state of California is really working out is because of the corporations are more interested in being in this state than from Jerry Brown's, man, Governor Newsom's governance. California is an attractive place just because of Silicon Valley, just because of the talent that comes from the colleges that are out here. In the state, there's always a source of talent that these corporations can always go to in terms of AI technology and things of that nature. And that is and from my opinion, the only reason why California is ranked number one in AI. But that is once this whole AI boom kick in with regards to the investments that's been going on in other states. I don't think that's going to be able to last very much longer. Number one in homeless, yet number one in AI. Economy that is just being swamped, or refineries that are leaving because of regulations. There's so many things, man, that he just loses points on that. It just makes you think like, man, can we actually believe in anything that you say when Donald Trump is continuously producing? Looking at this man be president, I can completely understand his idea and the separations when looking at Gavin Newsom from being a winner and being a loser. Because Gavin Newsom is losing at the moment. And I'm just with, you know, the secretary of, I guess the economy secretary, I forget his name, I'm sorry, but Bissett coming in and really looking into California with regards to fraud. No, I can only imagine what is going to come up out of that, because that train got built. That train that was supposed to get built hasn't gotten built. That was under Jerry Brown's watch. The state of California has to give a lot of money back with regards to the funding of illegal immigrants with regards to the Medicare system. Has to pay that back after going in their own reserves. You know what I'm saying? And it's no pun intended. I'm just like, oh, because there was illegal immigrants coming from everywhere. There were illegal immigrants coming from everywhere, all over the world. So, no pun intended to anybody like that. Like I said, I have a whole lot of people who went through the right way to become immigrants, and the reason why that Statue of Liberty is up there, because they chose to come through the right way. because they had a lot of more respect. They didn't want to be hiding away from the police. They didn't want to be running away and stuff like that. They go to court, you know, they getting tracked every day. They make, so I know what the business is with regards to it. That just lets you know that I know about what's going on with this immigration right now, and there's a right way and there's a wrong way. How the Democratic Party went about it after COVID-19, man, shoot, that was wrong, and it was too much. Anyway, at some point in time, I found out some information. I want to show you the paperwork about how they went about it, because it's on record now. Tiny Cross-H.U.G on the Trumped Up Live show, man. Stay tuned in to the channel. Always remember like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Always remember also, man, it's a good day to be a soldier.